Good morning from Saxony, Germany, and all around the world. It's the second day of action from the Eberspecher Luge World Cup, Altenberg, Germany. We're located just about 20 miles south of the city of Dresden in the Ore Mountains of eastern Germany. Very, very windy morning in Altenberg. The temperature is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, but the wind could very well affect the action out there today. Men's run number one coming up in just a moment. I'm Tim Singer, pleased to introduce my broadcast partner, John Morgan. And John, at 1,400 meters, this is one of the longest tracks in the world.
Well, it's one of the longest tracks. It's also one of the most challenging tracks. It doesn't have the super speedway like a Whistler, but boy, this track from the top really catches your attention. It's not like Innsbruck last week, where, you know, it's not hard to get down, it's just hard to get down fast. Here it's hard to get down and hard to get down fast both. There's this big sweeping right here. What a challenge that is for the skeleton sleds also right there. And, you know, no mistakes up here allowed. You know, you're still accelerating. You know, little three-corner combination labyrinth. And then you get into this big sweeping right to the long straightaway above the Kreisel. This is where you start to motor into the Kreisel, 270-degree whip around. You exit underneath where you enter the curve, and now 11-12. Boy, we saw an accident here yesterday. Victoria Demchenko. 13, big pressure. 14, the exit going uphill. No mistakes allowed in this little uphill section. Now 15, still big speed down here. You can still find some time down here into the finish. Tim, this track from day one has been a challenge for any sliding sport athlete that ever comes down.
It was built in 1981. More on the track in a little bit. Now on the players. 32 in today's run number one for the men's competition. The first 18 of them had to qualify in the one-heat, nerve-wracking Nations Cup race on Friday, 2 days ago, including Wolfgang Kindl, who won that race and is looking to work his way back into the seeded group. A look at all of the top players, including Felix Loch, second to last. Felix swept the two races at Innsbruck in the World Cup opener. Happy holidays. Yesterday was Sinterklaas Day in Netherlands as the official holiday season is underway throughout Europe and North America. Well, sit back, get ready for plenty of luge today. Later, it's the team relay, but now we get started with the men's competition. From Poland on course, Kasper Tarnowski, 21 years old, qualifying for the race.
Yeah, I don't think he got in the race last weekend, Tim.
He did not.
World Cup debut, and I like the history part. You know, Poland did win the World Championships in 1958 on a Polish track, Krynicia in Poland, and Jerry Wajner. So, you know, people think that this small nation doesn't have a luge background. Well, in fact, he went on to win another race, too, in 1961 in Gorbach. So, we'll see some new nations, Tim, that don't have any history for luge, you know, with results, but Poland does. Look at the speed out of 11-12.
Oh, but he made it look dangerous. You know, further up on that track, John, and he does make it down safely, and that's key, as he has a time of 56.263. But yesterday, we saw the doubles and the women entering curve 9 at a lot slower speeds than the men are going to do today. And that's going to be a trickier part of the track, I believe, today than we saw on day one.
Tim, that's tricky part of the track anytime you ever come out here. If it's slow, if it's frosty, there's no give-me's here on this track here. You have to pay attention from the time you leave the gate to the time you get off your sled.
22-year-old Mikhail Laishik from the Czech Republic now on board. Last year at the World Championships, he had a 29th place finish, but a top 10 at the Junior Worlds several years ago. I was told by my sources on location, John, that the key spot here due to the weather is the exit of Kreisel, that the wind really hits the athletes in the face at that point. In fact, that affected the doubles, Egert Bennekin, in a big way yesterday.
Well, Of course, you exit Kreisel, you have that formidable two-corner combination, 11 and 12, that might be one of the most challenging on the planet in the sport of the sliding sports. 1500ths plus. Kreisel, look at the marks. Here's that challenging spot Tim talks about. Watch these pictures. Ooh, little adjustment. He's late into 13. Gets away with it. Is still hanging in there. Exit of 15. The speed, 113 kilometers. Tim, that wasn't the speed we were seeing yesterday.
No, by no means was it.
But of course, these are lesser competitors. I think we're going to see 116, 108, maybe even 117 miles.
I got to believe, but again, the wind coming right at them right before that last split may play a factor into that. But they're starting so much higher, we should be seeing 75 miles an hour. A little later on in the run.
Look good here. Watch his right foot. He puts it down there. You know, he's wasn't sure of himself there at that part of the track. I wouldn't be sure of myself either.
All right, fourth consecutive World Cup appearance for Great Britain's Rupert Staudinga, which is a really great progress on this British program. And Rupert, of course, from Berchtesgaden. His uncle is the head coach of the Canadian team. But Rupert has been plugging away when he's not doing videos for the FIL Luge channel on instructional videos. Professor Luge.
This is Professor Luge. Beautiful. 26th last week in Innsbruck, the 30th best start in the field. I don't know if the start matters so much on this challenging bond.
Rupert talks about the key being for him being in the right mindset, being relaxed on the sled, especially in moments where there's mental pressure. For example, bumpy tracks, high speed, important races. He says that's always a never-ending challenge.
Well, he had 8 to 7. So he's coming back a little. Yeah, watch out. Really has to steer hard there. 15. He's in the green, though. Speed, we didn't see the speed. But
speed was 73.3 miles an hour, so as a point of relative comparison, that's 3 miles an hour faster than either of the first two sleds. So despite that redirection down below, John, he managed to have some good green numbers working for him at the bottom.
Yeah, he was in the red all the way through the Kreisel, and then about 13, 14, where I thought he was going to make a big mistake there on the exit of 14. We hung in there, best speed, best time in the bottom, and he's the leader. Look how high he is there, though, Tim, and that's the exit of 9, and that's why he's over in that right-hand wall. Came out there, got up there too high, steered too hard.
Mirza Nikolaev. This is a historical day. I referred to this yesterday. This is a debut performance for Bosnia-Herzegovina. The 19-year-old not only making his debut, John, making his country's debut into the sport of luge, World Cup luge.
We got to go back. Yugoslavia, Tim, they had to have some athletes from Yugoslavia,
well,
but of course.
You'd think with that course, that Trebevic course, feared by some, loved by others in Sarajevo.
Yeah, that big Omega curve. Boy, that was a beautiful track. Beautiful Olympic. Some problems here. And boy, you get that type of bang bang above Kreisel. That just is throwing a parachute out for your speed. Ooh, he's not sure of himself there. Watch out here. You know, you cringe when you see things like that happen, Tim.
No question about it. But the 19-year-old from Sarajevo, kind of a veteran correction there. And John, perhaps as we take another look at this, and congratulations to that man, Maciej Korowski, who's done a great job bringing along these young athletes. John, one thing about the design of this course is you may hit hard with those high speeds, but the way the curves are laid out, you do have the ability to correct yourself if you've got the presence of mind to do it.
Look at this here. This is like, what do I do now? I mean, going into 13 sideways, look at that combination, 13, 14. And coming out here, and I thought he had got it together there, but he had some issues going into 15 also. But he's down, Tim. He's through and down.
Okay, we saw his sister slide pretty well yesterday. Now it's brother's turn. Jakub Simonek, 24-year-old Slovakian. He loves to come back every year and see all of his athlete friends from the entire world. And,
25th last week in Innsbruck.
Yeah, he took part last week in Innsbruck. Had a 25th place.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
25th. Pretty good starter. 10th best start. He starts last week. So that's why he's in the green numbers now. He's way better starter than the 4 sleds that have come. Let's see if he can hold it. 2300s, but on this track, nothing safe.
Nice exit of curve 9 and a quarter of a second up into the Kreisel. This has become the key spot down here, John.
11, 12.
He's doing it well, better than anyone. 13,
crossover to 14, under control. What's coming right at us, right down the middle. Excellent speed. There's that 118 speed. This tells me we might see 120 speed by the time we're done.
Very likely as
wow,
he crosses.
half second
up, 55.577 for Jakub Simonek of Slovakia. And if you'd like to share some of your thoughts, your comments, your questions with us, we're interactive here with the live streaming. On Twitter, find us at Luge Announcer. You can also email us luge.announcer@gmail.com. And Gav Arnold writes in, part of the Great Britain Luge Federation, talking about it's nice to see some of these younger athletes get a shot every week on the World Cup, especially due to the fact, in part, that the North Americans aren't here, and it opens up the field for a few more spots. Now, from Ukraine, Andrei Manzi, 32 years old, an economist back in Kiev when not competing.
30th place last week at the World Cup opener.
31st last season in the World Cup overall points. Andre generally makes it into the main draw about 2/3 of the time. Usually sits in the 20s at best with his race results, but rarely misses out on qualifying.
That's why I love that qualifying. It just adds another element of suspense to the competition. Pretty good. 300s. About 300s on this track is not safe. 11, 12. Too much at 12. Correct. He's still got green numbers. 700 pulling away, even with that mistake. 7, not the best speed though we've seen. So it might be 300 or 400, 700s. There's 500s. He lost a little bit with that mistake,
but nonetheless takes over the lead. Early going here. It's Ukraine, Slovakia, Great Britain, Poland, Czech Republic, and Bosnia. That's the leaderboard of the top 6. By the way, Bosnia, as I mentioned earlier, an artificial luge track debut on the World Cup, although, as Ken tweets in to let us know, Bosnia has had many athletes take part in the natural track branch of the FIL.
Oh, he just got the red technical check. Out of 12. Mistake there, Tim. How much did that cost him? He was up by 500-700s there. That could have given him another 10th if he would have been clean.
Svante Kohala of Sweden grabbing the handles. 22-year-old from Lustero. His sister raced yesterday for the first time this season, and this is Svante's second race. He's 2 for 2 in qualifying so far in the young World Cup season.
19th last week in Eagles, Innsbruck.
That may be a career best for him.
Well, how do you describe coming from Eagles to Altenberg? I mean, for our NASCAR people, this is like Darlington, the track too tough to tame, is what I would say in the Bob and Skeleton world. And Eagles is like Kansas, one of those cookie cutter tracks. Not that much of a challenge.
Well, Eagles has presented some better challenges the last couple of years. At least I've noticed that, especially right before Kreisel. It's not just curve 9. It's right before Kreisel now. It's the lower labyrinth, so it's getting a little more challenging thanks to the track workers there.
His sister. Yeah, listen, don't diminish Eagles. Eagles is a fantastic track.
But you're right, your point that it is like fire and water. These are two very different layouts.
And it's, the athletes who love the real challenging tracks could fall asleep in Eagles sometimes because it doesn't present what you have here. But it's an easy track to get down. It's tough to get down fast. Here it's not easy to get down, and it's not easy to go fast. So it's a little different world over here.
And we move along with our next Ukrainian, Anton Dukash, 25-year-old sport instructor. That would be a phys ed teacher from Kiev. 22nd place at the World Championships 2 years ago. Those worlds held in Winterberg. John, is there a track that is easy to get down fast, but not easy to get down? Maybe Park City, right?
I don't know if that term applies. I don't think you can. There's no way to get down a fast track. First of all, there's no way to get down any track with that fast opponent. But Salt Lake, Park City's fast. Ooh, right up to the roof. Right up to the roof, and he's still trying to get control. Wow.
No speed in Kreisel, but it's still an adventure, still looping.
Yeah, I mean, there might be something in his sled. But needless to say, those green to red was expected. Now it's just a pedestrian ride down the rest of the way. He's got no speed. Probably be 112 speed, something like that, 109. So that'll be the lowest speed we've seen so far. And hopefully we don't see anybody else like this. He's throwing down. And
57.963 behind everyone but the Bosnian. So unfortunate because Dukash is at that level in the sport where he knows he can have some very solid runs, and
he just went for it. He went for it, and that ball up to the roof. Boy, you hardly ever see pictures like that going up to the top of a curve, and he still didn't have it under control here. When you disappear in the Kreisel like that, yes, that's what you think. His expression says it all.
Well, as usual, we have a full contingent of Italians in today's men's singles competition, and that group is led off by Leon Feldera, 20-year-old. His second season on the World Cup, presumably his first full season.
Probably another South Tyrolean.
They all are. We've talked about this a lot over the years. The Italians are very few and very far between in terms of luge. And I always wonder out loud, John, what would happen if they spread the cultural wealth in Italy and went down to Rome and to Florence, where you have these great athletes?
It's a culture, Tim. Have you ever? What's that track? That natural track on the way to Cortina? I should know it. I'm sure somebody, maybe Ken can tell us it. But it's where Paul Hildegarder. They're all from there. Hildegarder, the double gold.
You sure that's not Olang?
Maybe it's Olang. Yeah, it's on the way to Cortina. You stop in a nice town for coffee when we used to go over with him. But my brother Terry went over and stayed with Paul Hildegarder a few years ago over in that region. But that has borne a lot of these South Tyrolean athletes. I bet you he's familiar. It's only 1,000 meter, maybe a 900 meter track natural, but that's the hotbed of sliding for Italy in luge.
Felderer takes over the lead, the first of two consecutive Italians to go. And John, you've covered bobsled for 45 years, so you know this as well as anyone. There can be a mix of the cultures, because if you go back to the gold medal that Italy won in bobsled in two-man in 1998, that of course was a Sud Tyrolean driver and an Italian brakeman, Tartaglia.
Yeah, but and the Hubers. I mean, there's no more famous family in sliding is the Hubers. They won gold medals in luge at the Olympics and bobsled at the Olympics. Ooh, there's some problems there. They're coming out of the start. Come straight down there at the exit, but yeah, Tim, and the 1968 Olympic gold medalist for Italy was Eugenio Monti, but his brakeman. He was from Rome, so You know, in the
But with
bobsled
Huber and
world,
Tartaglia, that was proof that the cultures can mix.
yeah,
Gufla trailing his teammate by quite a bit here at the midpoint down this track. The lines are okay, the speed is not.
well, good lines here. He could catch it on the bottom. Good exit here. Look at his feet. Confident. 13-14 crossover again. He needs to hit it straight here. Boy, he's way back. 2300s. 120 kilometers, so he could
so
get
far.
this down to 1500s or so. 1400s.
Third place for Armin Zugler behind Leon Felderer.
Where do you think that Zogler guy's from?
Yeah, well, of course, that's my point, is every luger for years has been from Sud Tyrol, which is great. I understand the fact that that's the culture, but it's a big country. Okay, and we have seen, without getting too much into the political end of life and sport, we have seen, for example, in Canada, where you have the cultures, two different language cultures mixed to make a strong national team.
Yeah, well, it's the same in the U.S. All the bobsledders for the first 8 Olympics were all from Lake Placid to Elizabethtown and Plattsburgh and Saranac Lake. Now it's, they represent, probably 25 states in the last 4 or 5 Olympics.
That's right.
Athletes
and it's become culturally, even racially more mixed, so it's been incredible growth in the sliding sport. Okay, Mattias Sokovic. This is his 4th year on the World Cup. Just 24 years old still. The 11th out of 32 to start today.
And he was 32nd last week in Innsbruck. Another one of our Polish athletes.
Yeah, that had to be a bit of a disappointment on that Innsbruck track from an athlete that has had some top 15 results in his career.
Good lines, right on the blue, little high there, man. That little red dot you see, when you see that red dot, you're sort of told that you better get out of that curve. And this is pretty good. Speed, not bad, not the best, but not the worst. 3,800s back.
Well, you're taking a look in the distance there of the German coach. That's because the Poles, as do the Swiss and select other athletes, train regularly with the German team, which is huge for them.
And they do that in bobsled too. All of a sudden, the Poles are finishing regular 15th or 20th, and at the World Championships they have a top 10 finish. Codex, and it's a little bit of a lend-lease, some runners, and so the Germans have helped the Poles out in both luge and bobsled.
Stepan Fedorov, the first of 5 Russians in today's race, and of course I've said this for a couple of years now, Russia has the ability, basically every Russian in all of the disciplines has podium at somewhere along the way. So that just shows you the depth chart of this country. A country, John, that did not do well in the opener last week in Innsbruck across the board.
Yeah, it's like they were sleeping. I mean, I was very surprised. And of course, yesterday, Russians first and third in the men's. The women's, excuse me, right. and finished 20th. So this guy's been around for a while.
Sure has. 33 years old. He has a World Cup victory 4 seasons ago in Winterberg, Germany. He and Chris Masder went off like 2nd and 3rd in the second run, but on a snowy day, they stayed in the leader's box for an hour and ended up on the top of the podium.
Luck of the draw sometimes.
It's a rare day where you even get snow in Winterberg, right? Across the finish line in the lead by 0.05 of a second, Stepan Fedorov of Russia. A time of 55.315. As a point of perspective, John, that is 2 full seconds off of the track record.
Still.
And as I said yesterday, there hasn't been a track record yet in the first 6 or 7 races this season that's been even remotely threatened. Global warming or just rebuilding of the tracks?
Well, I think the global could be both, Tim. Not a lot of these tracks have been changed. This one has, and the finish curve's totally different.
Rix Rositas now on course. Starter number 13 out of 32, and the first from Latvia, Rositas, the silver medalist at the 2012 Youth Olympic Games. The two gold medalists for the next two, 2016 and 2020, are in today's race. But trivia, if you can answer this trivia question, tweet it in. Who won gold at the 2012 Youth Olympics for the boys? Hint, this man is not on the World Cup and has been very rarely on the World Cup over the past several years.
Got me stumped, Tim.
Yeah, well, we'll see how knowledgeable our viewers are. They're more than we are. But Rositas, Latvia, has done great at the Youth Olympics. He had the silver in 2012, and Latvia has captured gold at the last two Youth Olympic Games. Both of those athletes coming up in a little bit today.
8 thousandths of a lead, which is nothing on this track. And boy, he's got great lines, though, Tim. I hope I don't jinx him. He's 119.4. One of the best speeds. Should be the leader.
To the finish, the 26-year-old student of the Latvian Academy of Sports Education has the top spot for the time being, 55.256. Riks Rositas of Latvia.
16th and tied for 16th last week at the opener in Eagles. Tim, we're still 1.8 seconds off the track record. I think we're going to get it within a second of the track record, but I think the track record is safe. It's a little too warm today. In fact, it's around 40 degrees. You could very easily start to see some water in some of these straightaways. Second run, if it continues to get warmer. And the wind, Tim, the wind is melting the ice as fast as the temperature. The wind does more damage to this track.
First of the Germans, Moritz Bollmann. If he becomes sainted at any point in his life, he'll become Saint Moritz. And that's where we're headed for the season finale. Just rescheduled this past week, replacing the Chinese event that was canceled due to the pandemic. The final race will be in Saint Moritz. But now to the athlete, Moritz Bollmann, the former junior world champion in his second year on the World Cup.
Ooh, looks like he got on there too early. Threw him over a little bit under the next part of the labyrinth. 18th, I think, last weekend in Innsbruck. Pretty good starter at the fourth best start last week in one of the second heat. So, well, being a junior world champion, he definitely has to have some of those assets you need to.
Big guy too, John. 92 kilograms. Do you have your conversion chart? I'm not sure how that goes.
Ooh, wow, just barely. But he got back on. He didn't panic.
Not at all. He seemed very relaxed even through the turnover.
7/10 back.
Yeah, Norbert Lach not pleased. Lessons learned for the young athletes. And by the way, thank you to Ken, slidingonice.com. Of course, you had the answer. Christian Paffa was the man who won the 2012 Youth Olympic gold medals for Germany. But as Ken said, just didn't time his World Cup career too well. What happened here, John?
He just got over to the right, his right, and too much pressure. Came out of the 14 too early, and that brought him over there. And, hey, he made a big mistake, but of course, 70 miles an hour, it's hard to say he didn't panic, but Tim, that could have been a lot worse. He could have gone into that curve of 15 upside down.
Disappointed, but not upset. Now, the much anticipated World Cup debut of this man, Ginz Berzins, who last February captured the Youth Olympic gold medal in Saint Moritz, Switzerland, defeating Pavel Repilov of Russia.
How come he didn't compete last weekend?
He tried. He didn't qualify out of Nations Cup. Maybe nerves in his World Cup opener. It was a very special day in Saint Moritz where he won that gold medal. He didn't know, John, that his parents and girlfriend had made the trip from Latvia to watch him. He didn't know until he came across the finish line and hit the podium. So what a memorable way to start your luge career.
Yeah, it was the same in bobsled, with Harold Schudai's son, the Olympic gold medalist in bobsled in '94. And his son winning the monobob thing at youth games. Oh, there's some issues. Look at those pictures. Wow, you just tense up when you see something like that.
Absolutely.
Especially going to 13. I mean, that's what this course can do to you. I like to say the course has teeth.
Well, as you said, John, in covering skeleton, imagine going 60 miles an hour with your chin inches away from the ice. In this case, with luge, imagine going 60 plus miles per hour and crashing into a wall. That's what we've seen as many as not do so far.
And luge has got a little different height than bobsled or skeleton, where there's better center of gravity. Look at that. That looked very similar to what we just saw in the previous sled. Just hit the wall too hard. You don't want to hit the walls at all, but this young champion has gone from the junior level to the senior level, and he's not smiling yet.
Doing his last second visualization is our third Latvian, Arturs Starzniaks. Arturs has had some top 6 performances in his career, but still looking to break into the podium. 24th place finisher at the Olympic Games for a man who cites as one of his hobbies rollerblading. That's a page out of the 1980s, rollerblading.
Probably on skis, you know.
Yeah, the roller skiing, of course.
11th place last week in Eagles. Not a bad starter. 12th and 15th last week. So here he's got a 400th lead relative to his decent start. Ooh, but a mistake there. He came out, tapped the take on. And there's no mistakes allowed up top. This three-quarter combination, these labyrinths. Let the sled flow. Now into curve 9. Exit of 9. Pretty good. 500's lead. Hit those marks. Look at that red, there, that little red dot. You see that red dot? You sort of got to get out of the curve. And I don't want to jinx him, Tim, but looking pretty good. Even better there. Speed.
119.5 is 74.2 miles per hour
Should
to
be
the
the
finish.
leader.
He is indeed. 55.172 for Arturs Starzniaks of Latvia.
Did pretty well there, Tim. To be honest, the 119 speed in the bottom. He had a 300th lead around 13. The exit of Chrysler. Then he got that up to 700-800s. So, a guy finished 11th last week. He's right on.
He gets the red light.
Yeah.
Just talking a little bit more about that. The sled is inspected. The body, the athlete is weighed. It's an arbitrary, random selection of competitors in run number 1. There's our good friend Margit Dengler in her first year as the media representative for the International Luge Federation. On we go now with the Austrian, Reini Eger. Aside from being a top-notch competitor, Eger provides our point-of-view sled cameras at most of the tracks. John, he's been battling back injuries. He missed most of a season about 4 years ago, has come back pretty well, but these injuries have returned, which is too bad.
Well, having a bad back, sliding on this little tiny sled down these ice canals at 70-plus miles an hour, I don't think assists in the rehabilitation. But, he's out here. He's got good experience. 13th last week on his track, his home track.
The Austrians have 5 different athletes who have all podiumed in World Cup Luge. So you know that they expect now to have someone on the podium in week in and week out. Eger with a late surge takes the lead.
Too. Yeah, good speed in the bottom.
55.15.
Yeah, did well. Tim, I did notice a little water going down the track. It looks between 13 or 12 and 13. I think if it stays at this temperature, again, with the wind,
it's going to get warmer,
It's going to get warmer.
Yeah.
You're going to see, now the track, in my opinion, right now looks pretty frosty.
Early afternoon for the relay is expected to be mid-40s Fahrenheit, about 5 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, you can see the track glistening here, but farther down here, 13, 14 is where I think you see the water accumulating in the track, running down it. But the good lines here. This is where he made his time, the bottom part of the track.
All right, next up, our next Austrian, and John, certainly one of your favorite athletes in the entire sport. It's Wolfi Kindl.
Yeah, just he really caught my attention 2 years ago, Tim, when he started the season in Whistler. He won in Calgary. Then he went to Lake Placid and got disqualified. I wasn't there for that event. You were.
That's right, and it seemed to turn him around, and he went into about a 1.5-year slump, which he finally broke out of last year at the World Championships with a third-place finish. But he's strong. He's a bottom gainer, a speed merchant, as you like to say.
Oh, he's a speed merchant for sure. But, Tim, I think he's, height-wise, might be the smallest guy in the competition. What do you think?
Probably. He's got that short, stocky George Hockel type frame, and but he gains time at the bottom. He also has had some back injuries over the last couple of years.
He's almost built like a jockey. I look at him, when you see him on the podium winning, those other guys are 5, 6, 8 inches taller than he is. But 200's back, 119.9. He's got a chance to get green numbers. He's a speed merchant. Green.
Just missing out. Third place, 300's back.
300's, Tim. 300's.
Ager leading the way. Starzniak second, Kindl third, Latvia's Rositas fourth, and Russia in fifth.
Look at that leaderboard. A lot of similar flags there, Tim.
Indeed there are, and we have made our way through the qualifying. The next 14 to go now. We're all from the seeded group. So Kindl will have to sit back, hope for a top 15 position here.
12th last week in Innsbruck on his home track, which surprised me. Great lines here, Tim. Didn't seem to have the good speed up top. His starts, he's in the middle of the pack starting, but he's a jockey.
I'm eagerly anticipating this next competitor who has been as good as anyone in the world the past 3 or 4 years, Roman Repilov. Already on course. John, the Russians had an awful week in Innsbruck, but yesterday we saw that they are back with Tatiana Ivanova's victory, with good showings by the doubles. So can the men follow suit today?
Well, this will be the rabbit that'll tell us that, Tim. It's like the Russians were sleeping last week, or their sled setup, because the athlete who won the race yesterday was 20th last week in Innsbruck, and that just doesn't compute in sliding sports. You might have an off day and finish 8th or 10th, but when you have the ability to win a race, you shouldn't be back 20th.
Nationwide they struggled, so they put it together for weekend number 2 on a track that, admittedly, the athletes all do very well. Look at that speed.
Best speed so far. This is going to be 1,1500ths in the lead, at least. Not only 9th, but wow, that speed. Tim, there you go. He's got that little thing on his chest, says world champion, relative to where he won it last year on his home track in Sochi. But like you said earlier, Tim, any one of these Russian athletes, they've all medaled. They can strike at any time.
And in Repilov's case, he's not only the defending world champion, he's the defending World Cup overall champion. He's had success on most tracks, Innsbruck notwithstanding.
You talk about quiet on the sled. I mean, that's why he's the leader at the moment. No movement, just another day at the office. Yes, you are the world champion. You're the World Cup champion. Does the World Cup champion get a bib too, Tim?
Yes, the world champion gets a bib.
He's got to have a...
So you're saying he should wear 2 bibs?
Well, he's got to have world champion, and on the side it should say World Cup champion also.
Good point. Advocate for that.
I just did.
Okay. Alexander Gorbach, 26-year-old from St. Petersburg.
Another one here.
Finished 4th at the World Championships. That indeed was home cooking, because his top 5 results have been very rare outside of Sochi.
Yeah, he was, pedestrian 14th last week. Repilov was 10th. So, again, the Russians were competing, but we're not going to compete.
Yeah.
We're not going to compete at a high level. Across the board, every one of the athletes they entered. But it's a different story over here in Altenberg. And I wouldn't say Altenberg is like their track in Sochi. Sochi's a glider's track. Here it's
technical.
Well, a better word than technical to me is treacherous. It's different use of the word T. But these are red numbers, good lines. 3/10 back speed, better than most. And 8th.
Called that 55.432, the downtime for Alexander Gorbach. Still trying to figure out this Altenberg track. Clearly, he finished 20th in this race last year.
Pretty much is where he finished last week. He's probably going to finish like 12th or 13th in the field here.
Yeah, so. The Russians have a knack of moving up many spots in run number 2 in all 3 disciplines. So wouldn't count him out yet, although that was very much a marginal opening run.
12, the exit of 12. It looks like he's getting up a little high late. That sets him up for 13. Does he disappear here? Not too bad. Crossover. Pretty quiet. Pretty pedestrian run.
Well, 4 of the 5 Germans in the Men's World Cup this season hail from the Oberhof region, Thuringia, where the tour moves to next week, so that will bode well. The lone exception is the Bavarian Felix Lach. And here comes Sebastian Blei, 25-year-old from the city of Zuhl, which is not far from Oberhof, which is a city that has produced great sliding sports athletes over the years.
Yeah, a guy named Andre Lange, you know, 4 Olympic gold medals consecutive, 2002, 6, and 10. He started his career in Luge, was a junior world champion, I think, in doubles.
Blei with 2 World Cup podiums in his career, including a bronze medal late last season.
Quiet there, 3/10 back, but doesn't have, he's going to have to do a lot to get it in the top 3, top 5. He's going to struggle to be the top 6 maybe. 4,200 back speed's not bad, but he's going to fight to stay in the top 10.
12th place, very disappointing for the 2 Germans that have come down so far. Blei and Bowman find themselves in 12th and 15th position out of the 21 that have gone. Now, I don't expect we'll see as poor a result from the Ludwigs and the Lachs of the world, but that's interesting on a track that they've trained on.
I mean, the start, she's on that left wall. Is that, I don't know, doesn't, they showed us that like maybe there was a mistake. Here he drifts. This is into 14 to 15 straight away, that little uphill section. When you make a mistake going uphill in these sliding sports, this gravity sport, not good. So he drifted a little bit. But Tim, he didn't have any numbers from top to bottom.
Next up, from the seated group, this is Josef Ninis, who has been competing in World Cup Luge longer than any active athlete in the sport, including the Sheiks brothers from Latvia. Josef's first season on the World Cup was 2003, 2004. Wow. John, you were still in high school back then, right?
I'd like to think that, Tim. But not a very good opener last week. 28th.
Ninis from Slovakia. He will be, again, battling with his Slovakian teammate, Simonik, for a spot later today in the team relay competition.
So that's what they do. They pick the fastest guy.
Different nations have different standards. Some have the fastest individual run, because that's what the relay, of course, is. Some have the best result earlier in the weekend, and some it's just a selection among the coaches on what they think will be the best result.
Oh, he's handling the pressure. Shaky there. Speed, not very good speed. 20th place or so. 15th.
15th for Ninis.
Not bad considering the speed. When you see people going 119, 120 clicks, and he's only got 116. You know, but hey, he beat one of the German athletes. But of course, Bowman was on his side. You know, out of 12.
Ninis has 1 podium in his career. That was Sigulda, Latvia, 2018.
Really?
In a sprint competition. He was on a good little run for about 4 or 5 weeks, especially in the sprint. That has always been his strong suit since that format was
introduced. This is where Bowman, the German, went over right there. He stayed off the wall. Bowman crushed it, turned on his side, which is why he's back in 16th place.
Here's the next of the Austrians, David Gleicher, who's currently second in the World Cup standings with a fourth and a second in the two races last week on his home track in Innsbruck. His brother, Nico, coming up in just a moment. And their father was a World Cup race winner in his career.
You know, he's the Olympic champion, 5th and 6th at the start on his home track, finishing 4th. He did pretty good in the sprint, as you said, Tim.
John, the first World Cup luge race I ever covered, Gerhard Gleicher was the winner, starting.
No.
You know what his start number was?
No.
54.
Really?
You think
they had
that was a
qualified?
long night for us?
Yeah.
It was a rainy day, and the track kept getting warmer. Gleicher started 54th and won the race.
In Innsbruck, Eagles?
In Eagles.
Yeah, cool. That's back when you just got out of high school, Tim.
Still in middle school at the time.
Middle school at the
Nice
time.
exit there, wavering
Good
a little.
speed,
Still
good
in the
speed.
red, though. He's got a lot to make up. He's
Yeah,
not going to make all of
2200s,
that.
maybe get 19 or 1800s back with 30. Boy, with that speed, that's strange, Tim.
Well, could be
With
the
that
day.
speed, 119.9, and for him to lose 10 hundredths there in that last speed trap, that's surprising.
And aside from being second in the world, John, Gleicher is the defending champion of this event. He won the World Cup in Altenberg last February.
So he started proving people wrong. He had never medaled, right? And then he went out and won the Olympic champion
He won a gold.
gold medal, and then he came out here the following year, won this event, and wow.
Well, it also, in some ways, showcases what we've been talking about all day, all weekend, really, and that's the Russians are back. They've got it figured out this weekend because Rapilov continues to hang on to the top spot ahead of Ager and Starzniak. And here is our third of 5 Germans, Max Langenhahn.
Not very good starts last week, not a very good finish, 15th. Start 7-1-1, the best from the Russian, and he's 600s off of that. You know, on this track, I don't think it's that important. You negotiate these mega curve and then this little 3-corner combination labyrinths. There's the second, third. There's the third. Now we go to 9. Look at the water coming down the straightaway here. See if we can see it. No, not too bad. 2500s back.
Here comes the exposed section when they hit the wind.
Still losing time. 25 to, not doing anything wrong, Tim. Maybe just steering too much.
You know, we saw this a lot last season, John. This is going to be interesting over the next several sleds as he crosses way back in 15th.
Half
Really,
second back.
The Germans, their best showing at the moment is 13th. And that is a little perplexing. But what
we're on a German track.
That's right. And what I was going to say is we saw a lot last year on warm days where if you went late in the draw, regardless of whether it was the first or second heat, you were in trouble. I'm not sure if that's the case yet, but that has been the
frost.
trend.
Look how frosty the track's becoming.
Right.
You're starting to see the lines. So the temperature and the wind have turned the track into some soft side. Look, what happened? Why am I? He looked a little frustrated there. So, Tim, we could be on to something. The track could be saying it's enough.
Well, Nico Glacier, the second of the brothers, now up, 23-year-old. His last second preparations before grabbing the handles. He had a great weekend last week. Let's see, he ended up in 6th in the main 2-heat race. Not bad for Nico, who was really only in a couple of races last year. He toured with the team around the world all season long, but was kept out of the qualifying for several of those races. Was the good soldier.
Well, he was 4th in the first heat last week. Had the 9th best time in the second run, which caused him to fall to 6th. Ooh, he got in there late. Look at, he had to loop over that first part of Omega. 1800s back. Well, Tim would say stop the bleeding, but if you look, I think we don't see any glistening track anymore. Looking frosty to me. 3100s back. Now watch this little water line here coming out of 11-12. So here's 11, 12. Just look the middle of the track. don't see it there. Maybe it's out of here. 14.
Yeah, these, I think
Right there.
we're starting
Right
to
there.
hit that point, John, where there is no chance for these late athletes, which is unfortunate. Yesterday we were talking about this, John, about the format with World Cup Luge where the seeded athletes go last, and there's some excitement there, there's some parity with that, but now we're seeing the dark side of that format.
Yeah, and then between runs, of course, Ralph Mende and his crew will spritz the track.
But that may only, again, improve for the first
top
20
guys.
Yeah.
But I still think that we got these couple guys coming up, Felix Locke and Johannes Ludwig. I still think they're going to be up there pressing to the 5-10 hundredths off the lead, if not be the leaders.
We're about to enter that spot they call the super seed, the top 6, right after this Austrian competitor, Jonas Müller. Jonas, the silver medal winner last year at the World Championships, and a pair of top 5s last week at the opening races in Innsbruck, including a podium in the sprint. John, real quickly, while Mueller hits the ice, congratulations to Reed Watts and the veteran team of Walker Smith and McKenna Hodgson, who yesterday won the national championships for Canada. And without the Canadians taking part in the first half of the World Cup season, that's their biggest event, which they held in Whistler.
They were so excited about the World Championships coming to Whistler. Reed Watts, the Whistler guy himself. Remember him looking at me saying that we're gonna do something in our World Championships, and disappointing for the Canadians there, disappointing for the Americans for not the World Championships not being in Lake Placid. And this is another example of the track is slowed down.
Mueller has been one of the best the last season and a half, and look, well, he makes the mistake there, so we won't really get
speed, Tim. 7 kilometers deficient speed there.
Altenberg has been a little puzzling, John, over the last several years. People who have been following the sport are aware that Sandra Robacher in women's had her only victory. That was 2 years ago on a snowy day here. Some strange things, you like to call it gremlins around the track, right?
Gremlins. Mother Nature. Well, here, Mother Nature's got involved. Yeah, I hear you. You finished 5th last week. You just posted the 22nd best time of this run. Strange. Look at the frost lines now. You can see all over the track here, Tim. So here, and he just makes a mistake, and you can see the line on the track there. So it's not glistening, the track. Yeah, I think that demonstrates what he thought of the run.
Now the Super Seed Final 6. This is where we're going to see whether it is track or whether it is athlete, because Joe Ludwig had a second last week, silver medal in Innsbruck. He's the Olympic bronze medalist. After the race, he said how great it was to start the season. He's tactically exactly where he wants to be. He even mentioned he had a little equipment issue last weekend, despite that second place, which he fixed. Let's see if he fixed it to these warm conditions.
He went from green to red immediately. There's a little spot of water you can see on the take-on to look like the 5. 2100's back.
It's done. That's done.
It's done. The track is finished. So if he finishes 7/10 back, you're going to have some long faces. But what are you going to do,
There's
Tim?
no protest. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it works.
You can do.
And the real question now, John, as we see him, let's see this split, yes. We'll see what is the gap in which you might be able to make up in the second run. So he will be 7/10 back.
18th for the guy who finished second last week.
But again, as a point of comparison, Repilov, who continues to lead, he was 19th off, or 14th from the end in run number 1 here. He still leads. So that at least gives a little confidence to anyone who's in the top 20 after the first heat, that maybe they can establish themselves and hope the track deteriorates again.
Yeah, Repilov might have been right in that window where the track still provided you some opportunity. Remember, he had over 120 kilometers in speed.
That's right, and he's good.
And nobody's come near the 119 the last 6-8 sleds. I think nobody. I mean, to have the guy who got second last week's in 18th place.
It's Russia, Austria, Latvia, the top three still. No German right now in the top 12. One still to come. But here's the final Latvian, Christos Apariovs, the 2016 Youth Olympic gold medal winner, who finished 11th 2 years later at the Senior Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea.
Well, so he's 200s back there. And at the next clock, Tim, he's 15, 1800s.
He will
he's
be.
Gonna
I mean, I'm no expert here, but that's the trend. That's been his clear.
1500s back, probably right here, minimum. No, not bad. Only 8. But well, what we just saw out of Ludwig, he didn't have really any issues. 13.
Well, if he can
Doing
keep it
pretty
within
good.
0.4 of a second
Yeah.
or so, it's a top 10.
Yeah. If he can get to 119 kilometers, maybe he'll prove us wrong a little bit. I mean, we're hitting with the bated breath. Ooh, that didn't help. 2,800, 117 kilometers. He'll be 4,500s back probably.
Apariovs to the finish in 13th place. It's almost like in the NBA at the end of the season, John, where you're one of the losingest teams and you just want to keep losing so you have the top draft pick. At this point, do you want to go off as early as possible in the second run?
No. You want to stay within 3/10.
Because it's a 2-run combined time. So you don't want that
still
deficiency. Yeah.
You can't get back 45, 50, 100s.
That's right.
I don't think anybody's going to win if they're behind by 2,500s. They might have a chance to podium, but here, this didn't help. That cost them maybe 10, 1500s. But, other than that little mishap on the exit of 14, which the coach was looking at that spot there, that was the replay for that.
Final Russian now ready, former world champion, former World Cup overall champion, Zemin Pavlichenko.
Good starter.
4-time European champion, always rises to the occasion, in part because the European Championships are often held in Latvia or Russia.
Should be just a 10th back, plus 7, wow. He was much closer to Ludwig at the start last week in Innsbruck than right there. Ooh, there's a tap before he got on that first, I think it's 5, first part of the Labyrinth. Labyrinth is a 3-corner combination.
Already
every track's got to have one. Yeah, it's head back, confidence.
Head back is an understatement with Pavlichenko. His head is almost buried.
Well, he's 4,700. He's going to be lucky to be within 8/10 here at the bottom at this pace, Tim.
Again, the temperature is hovering in the low 40s Fahrenheit, about 5 degrees now Celsius, and that
He
is
might be a
hard.
second. He might be a second off the pace. There, unbelievable. Yes, I'm with you, Coach.
56.09.
Look,
nothing they
Rush,
can
nothing
do.
they can do.
And I gotta wonder what these last 3 are thinking. The Fishnellers and Felix Lach. I mean, what can you do strategically if you know what has been unfolding down below?
You tell yourself, I need to have a perfect run just to give myself a chance for a podium. I think, reality, I can't see any one of these people that are in the last 10 sleds have a chance to win, even a podium spot. Now, I hope they prove me wrong, but this guy just came down in 1 second behind. Yes, I know. I feel your pain.
Kevin Fishneller, the first of the final 3 in this crazy first run, 7th place finisher at the Olympic Games. His cousin Dominic, who finished 4th in Pyeongchang, coming up in a moment. Felix Lach in between the two of them. Already a 10th of a second back, John.
Yeah, but Tim, I think he was 4th and 12th at the start last week, and I think he didn't have a good paddle there because he should have been closer than a 10th. I don't think the track affects you in the first 50 meters that start is registered. I mean, here he's 5,100ths back, and has he really done anything wrong? He stays within 50, 1,600ths. That'll be a moral victory. This is perfect.
It's
Head back.
back.
Oh, he's going to be a 1-3. Look at the speed. He's going to be 1.2 seconds at least.
John, someone is going to be protesting. Now, there is really no grounds to protest. As you said, this is weather. There's nothing you can do. The conditions dictate sometimes some crazy things in the sport of luge. But they're not going to go quietly here. When the likes of the Fishnellers and the Locks and the Pavlichenkos and the Gleichers, and they're all back in the standings.
I don't disagree with you. But what are they going to do? Cancel this run and run the second run as it is? No, they can't.
No, they can do that sometimes on a very snowy
day. But in this condition, too. It's extremely windy. Uta just sent me another note from the press center that it's extremely windy and it's warm. We said that right off the bat. And I think the wind has done more to deteriorate the ice than the temperature.
Felix Locke made it all the way back to the podium last week in Innsbruck after going a season being shut out, not just of the victories, but of the podium. The two-time Olympic champion looked solid as the class of the field in Eagles to open up the season. Sun is shining, wind is blowing, temperature is warm, and no one has come close to Roman Repilov in the last 15 sleds.
And again, just you can remember, you can see some wet spots on the track. Remember the first 10 sleds down, the track was glistening. Now it's frosted up. It looks like you open up your freezer and you say, well, I should defrost my freezer. And that's what you got here. But, Tim, we wouldn't be having this race if this was a natural track today.
That's correct. And they already canceled some skiing events around Europe. A lot of live TV coverage around Germany.
Well, this is going to make the German broadcasters happy with their favored son here. And, 6/10 back. Okay. Norbert, you know what that is.
Well, here is your indication, John. Here in Germany, Sebastian Bley in 14th place is the highest placing German in the first run. I mean, Felix gives us a thumbs up. Perhaps it was as good a run as he could hope for.
Someone's going to get in that leader's box, maybe this guy here, and live there a long time in the second run, Tim. Because he's right in that margin about the 14th, 15th sled down where Repilov went. That's where Felix Locke will launch his second run.
That's right.
And he could spend a long time in that leader's box. I'm not
going
to say he's going to medal, but Felix, you better get a jacket. I think in the second run you're going to be in a very favorable spot.
Okay, waiting the green light for the final starter here, Dominic Fishnoller, fourth place finisher at the Olympic Games, and the winner of a handful of World Cup races over his career. We talked earlier about the Italians, the Sioux Tyroleans, perhaps someday mixing with the Italians, and Luge Moms tweeted in to say in some cases the USA and the Italian sliders can mix successfully too. That's very true. I'm not going to spread the gossip myself, but certainly a lot of people know what you're referring to. Thanks for tweeting in, Luge Moms.
2700's back. Well, keeps it below 40 at the next clock right before the Kreisel. 40, 42, okay. Well, this looks like about 75, 8000's back. Locke just made it 1600s. This Dominic Fishnoller, a bronze medal last week in Innsbruck. So good lines. Just put yourself in position. 77, so he's going to be 9500s or a second back. Nowhere near what Locke did. 101, 24th place.
Two great champions right there. Between them, they have 8 Olympic medals.
Well, between them, they've medaled in 9 straight Olympics, too.
That's right. That's correct.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. The span 90s, the first part of this, 2000 to 2010, and Locke's success.
Well, Fishneller gets the green light, and we have the stop sign now on run number 1, which has come to an end. Roman Repilov had the best speed of the heat, 74.7 miles an hour. As a result, he has the lead, but a funny thing happened not too long after the Russian came down the track. The track decided it was not going to cooperate anymore, and
Tim, I don't remember a luge race. Now, I've not covered as many races as you have. I don't remember this much of a disparity on a non-snow day in the competition.
Ager second, Starzniak's third. As you see, there's going to be a lot of fun posturing for podium position still. And Rapilov will be last off of the top. And we don't know what the track's going to do. John, to answer your question really quickly, it actually has happened at least once or twice a season over the past couple of years. Warm day. And despite all of the efforts by the track crew and the Ice Meister, they just can't keep up with the 32 race field. So,
and the humidity in the air, Tim, with the wind.
That's exactly right.
You know, the humidity takes the oxygen out of the ice and